I receive a call. I know who it is without looking at the number, from the dread that fills my stomach the moment the phone rings. I take 3 quick breaths before I answer, to keep my voice steady. Hello? Are you certain? I'll be there shortly. There's a dull throbbing in my head as I hang up. My wife appears from around the corner, her face grim. Will you be home in time for dinner? She asks, arms crossed. Save me a plate. In our 15 years together, Nancy and I have gone through this charade countless times. It has become routine. The omission of details and tense farewells. It's easier this way, we've both come to realize. The less she knows, the better. I have a while to think of the things I'd rather have said to her on my drive. For some reason, the words only ever come to me while I'm peering out at headlights illuminating dark asphalt. Usually I turn on the radio and mindlessly scan through channels, or smoke a cigarette to push Nancy from my focus. Tonight, I let her stay. The suburbs aren't meant to house this type of horror. Cul-de-sacs and manicured lawns. Chalk drawings on sidewalks. If anything, there's a quiet desperation to them. These middle-class prisons, with their uniformity and forced cheeriness. This shouldn't be the place for anything as sinister as 36 Sherman Lane. My assistant has already arrived. He's busy setting up equipment on the front lawn as I pull in the driveway. He barely pauses to look up as I approach. How are you? I greet him. I've forgotten his name, or perhaps I've chosen to. The chance to ask has long since passed with as many times as we've gone through this, though I doubt he knows mine either. We both seem to agree that being friendly is not required for us to work well together. Fine so far, he mutters, distracted. So, what have you heard? Such an earnest question from such a haggard man. I study the portion of his gaunt face that the respirator doesn't cover, before telling him all that I can afford to. It seems agitated. He, like I when I was in his position, has been conditioned to never react. But there is a moment of recognition that flashes through his eyes. Does that mean you're going in? I don't think I have a choice. We walk back to his van, where we retrieve a biohazard suit that he begins helping me into. I glance at the house next door, 39 Sherman Lane, and notice a gap in the blinds quickly disappear. I can't blame them for spying. I wonder what it must be like to live near something so ominous. Why do they stay? If I were in their position, I'd have left everything behind and walked away long ago. Consequences be damned. Then again, I may be the only living person who knows the truth about this house. Are you sure about this? He asks as we reach the front door. At least take a moment and look at these readings. The charts he presents are foreign to me. They spike and drop in sharp intervals that might alarm someone who understands exactly what is being measured. I look away from them, choosing to focus on the welcome mat. The irony is not lost on me. I can take it from here, I assure him, despite every piece of my being wanting to get back in the car and drive home. To Nancy. To safety. Best of luck, then. He turns away without further question, hurrying back down the driveway for his own well-being. I don't fault him for it. 3 quick breaths to steady myself, and I'm on the other side, shutting the door behind me. It's just a house. I tell myself a mantra that I have adopted, though the fluctuation of my Geiger counter contradicts me. I watch the needle move like a pendulum with each tentative step I take. The clicking itches at me. I must be one of the few people to ever be where I'm standing, and even fewer who have escaped this place with their mind intact. In fact, I am the only person who has ever returned to this house on multiple occasions. Not everyone can handle this type of situation. They require a certain type of individual. Someone who truly understands what they are walking into. That is why I received the call, and no one else. I linger in the foyer for some time, the light in my hand scanning between the set of stairs ahead, the kitchen to my right, and the living room to the left. I try to recall the decision that I made on my last expedition, but every trip is blurring together, and ultimately my next move seems inconsequential. Every room will need to be explored before I am permitted to leave, now that I have entered. I choose to go left. The checkered tiles under my feet are replaced by beige carpet. A flat-screen TV is mounted to the wall across from a leather sectional that sits behind a glass coffee table. An assortment of remotes and magazines placed atop. Charmless comforts pieced together in a suspiciously haphazard way. It's too familiar. As if every object has been placed in a calculated way to make the room appear ordinary. I take a moment to observe the portraits on the walls, all depicting a smiling couple, a beautiful woman and a handsome man. Such beauty covered by cobwebs, and the only unkempt objects in an otherwise immaculate space. The contradiction makes the hairs on my body stand on end. Do not get involved. Another mantra I recite in times of stress. I know that it serves me no good to speculate on who these people are or how they live their lives. It will only complicate the task ahead. I find myself in the kitchen. An array of particle board, melamine, and stainless steel make up the cupboards and fixtures before me. Hastily made, though aesthetically pleasing to a casual eye, that lacks foresight to the inevitable repairs and replacements only a few years will bring. A lackluster wine rack sits on the counter, almost accusingly bare. The digital display on the oven flashes the time over and over. 9:54. The numbers are dizzying in the relative darkness, and I have to force myself to look away before nausea overwhelms me. My eyes find the kitchen aisle instead, where a pair of chopping boards and a large set of knives are arranged. With some dismay, I realize there is a knife missing from the block as I make my way back to the foyer. Standing at the bottom of the stairs, my journey is half complete. The steps are carpeted in that same horrid beige, a neutral color devoid of inspiration. I pass more framed photographs of the couple on my way up, deliberately avoiding their stares. I cannot bear to look at their faces. I'm at the top, and I am once more faced with the choice of proceeding left or right. Two identical bedrooms await down the hall on either side. I realize that I have made a choice once I am just outside the door. The respirator that has done my breathing for me seems to suddenly stop supplying me with oxygen. Is that you, babe? 3 more breaths, and I'm on the other side. Kelsey stares up at me from the bed. Instead of the seductive lingerie I was expecting, I find her fully clothed, seated on the edge of the mattress. You were expecting me, right? Not him? Kelsey shakes her head, giving me the faintest of smiles. No. He won't be home for a while, she whispers. But you and I need to talk about this situation. She motions for me to sit beside her. My limbs are weighed down with apprehension as I comply, forcing my feet to shuffle forward reluctantly. Does he know? About us? I break the silence. She shakes her head. No, at least, he hasn't said anything. But I don't think I can hide this from him, not anymore. The room seems to tilt as I absorb what she has said. I grip the sheets in a vain attempt to keep my equilibrium. Listen, Kelsey, we had our fun, right? And you know how I feel about you. You know what you mean to me, but we both knew this couldn't last. I mean, you know I was married when we started this, and I knew you were too. I managed to stammer. The words seemed to come from somewhere outside of me. Let's just look at this for what it is, okay? It was wrong, but we can still fix it. We can just break it off, and that'll be it. We go our separate ways, and we stay that way, okay? Her eyes have been brimming since before I sat down, and they finally spill over. She doesn't try to prevent them from flowing down her cheeks. I just can't keep lying. Sweat forms on my neck, trickling down my spine. There's an alarm clock on the nightstand next to her. The old red digits read 9:54. Kelsey, I plead. I know it might be hard to believe because of everything that's happened, but I love Nancy. If she ever found out about us, well, she'd leave me. And I couldn't deal with that. I'm sure he loves you the same way. What good would it do for us to come clean to them? What good would it do? I hate the way my voice sounds. So frantic and wobbly. Kelsey only shakes her head in response. You don't understand. You don't understand at all. She reaches for something on the nightstand, holding the image in front of my face. It's 9 weeks along, she sobs. Remember when he was away for a month? All that time we spent together? That's when it happened. Of course I remember. I remember every lusty moment. I even fantasize about them every time I've been intimate with Nancy since. We can fix this. No. Her lip twitches, placing the ultrasound on the sheets between us. You know that I could never. I don't want to look, but I do. The second I see the little sign of life, I look away. Kelsey reaches for my hand and I withdraw mine. Look, I start to say, running a hand through my hair while she hugs herself. Why don't we just tell them? I want to be with you. Why is that so hard to understand? Oh, get over yourself, for fuck's sake. I'm married. You knew what this was when it started. What are we supposed to do, run off into the sunset? I'm standing now, watching the tears collect in her eyes. But I love you, can't you see that? I want to see this through. Please. Until what? The next one comes along? A little younger, a little more fit? What happens then, huh? We cheated, Kelsey. It's bound to happen again. No, this isn't... I actually feel something for you. You're nothing. You understand? That's all this ever was. All it was ever gonna be. Nothing. I say coldly, jabbing a finger at her. Don't expect me to drop everything because you got caught up in your feelings. Act like a fucking adult, would you? We're done. Please, she says, nearly a sob. We're done. I'm gonna leave now. Don't fucking call me. Don't text me. Don't even think about it. Go back to your life with your husband and your money. Rope someone else into your bullshit, I say, turning to leave. Turning away from the tears I don't want to see. And get rid of that fucking baby. I expected better from you. My hand is already on the knob and ready to turn when she speaks. It's barely a whisper, but I hear her. Fine. Leave if you want to. But in the morning, I'll tell him. I'll tell them both, she says, sniffling. You wouldn't fucking dare. Fuck you. I don't want to live like this. I can't live like this, not anymore. She's shaking her head, and I find myself marching back toward her. You won't do it. What do you want, huh? What do you want from me? All I wanted... Suddenly her eyes are wide. An amalgamation of shock, betrayal, grief. Her hair is twisted in my grip and yanked back, the long blade of the kitchen knife burying deep as my left hand drives it in. I don't remember having it. It wasn't in my hand when I came up into the room. Unless... No, I didn't bring it with me. I didn't plan... This wasn't... A rage that I have never felt before twists the knife in my palm. I stare into Kelsey's eyes, watching them flicker against the damage I know is fatal. It hurts me more than I ever thought possible, and when I pull the knife free, I run it in again. And again. I can't stay here. I can't. My assistant is crumpled in my arms, looking up at me as I bury the blade as deep as his suit allows me to. The hazmat canvas is tough, but I can see it in his eyes. He knows he's going to fade away. The carpet beneath us does its best to soak up the crimson that is dripping from his neck. The lazy but powerful spurts that seep through my fingers. In a panic, I let go of the knife. This isn't right. This isn't right. This isn't... What did you do? I bellow, dropping him to the floor. What the fuck did you do? My face is hot, and the glass of the respirator is heavily fogged. He wheezes, struggling for air. Me? What did I do? He chokes, somewhere between laughing or coughing. I can't differentiate. What the fuck did you do? My fists are balled, ready to strike, but he only points a finger back to the steps, still choke laughing. The door to the basement is open. The old wooden steps leading into a realm of shadow. A sea of red and blue cascades through the windows. alternating our features in a bloom of contrast. My skin tingles and my brain squirms, like there's worms burrowing through the series of tubes. Together we twitch and melt, the strands of our existence intertwining, both physical and cerebral, until we are the same person. Kelsey's body is heavy. Wrapped in a heap of bedsheets and blankets, I drag her to my car. I replace them with a fresh set from the linen closet, something we had done time and time again, almost like a ritual to close up the affair. I drive around for hours. He'll be home soon. Everything should be fine. He's never seen my face. He doesn't even know I exist. They won't miss her, I tell myself, driving through the night. It doesn't bring me comfort, only fuels the fever dream the night has turned into. I consider dumping her in a lake or a river, weighing down the corpse with rocks, or even burying her in the wilderness beyond the interstate. I'm torn from my thoughts of buying a shovel or clawing at the earth with my fingers, when I picture her face in my mind, and the nagging thought that she deserved better, deserved a kind of happiness no longer possible. She deserved to know that I loved her, even though I was too washed up in cowardice and shame to admit it. A bar on the outskirts of the neighboring town with a neon sign of a smoking gun, the ridiculous markup of a bottle of whiskey from the shelf, and menthol cigarettes to go. A long stretch of back road heading back home, my own subconscious GPS funneling me back home. Then it hits me. It's genius. Perfect, even. The tires squeal as I turn around, the needle climbing as I realize exactly what I'm to do. The hits from the bottle fuel me, and cigarette smoke flutters over the dash as I snub the butts, one after another. I was only new then. Lucky enough rookie on an off-the-books job. Payroll fueled by black-budget checks. One man per site, minimal teams. Outside monitoring only. No questions asked. No incident reports. Only the hearsay from a table of suits hundreds of miles away, and the routine checkup of an unexplained anomaly. An anomaly that nobody investigates but me. If only I knew it would feast on the beating heart. The assistant leans against the toilet, his hand failing to stop the squelching from his neck. I brace myself against the sink as I come back into reality, a fog in my brain drifting away until I reach the sobering clarity. The knife lays in the sink, the heavy color of blood thinning as gravity pulls it into the drain. I look into the mirror and hate the man that's looking back at me. "Jesus Christ," the assistant says, exhausted. The laughing isn't far behind. "Why did you enter the house?" I ask, my voice muffled by the respirator. I lean against the sink, feeling the stillness of the house in my bones. The assistant lowers his hood and pulls off the gas mask, revealing a tired and sunken face. He's fading, sweating, but his eyes are lit up, and he smiles with disbelief. "All this time, we thought the house was just fucked." He stops to cough, a single hack that strings into a fit. "But you've been feeding it. All this time, you sick fuck." The coughs and laughs overlap in an erratic bout of mania. "I do only what is necessary," I say, looking at the blood on my hands. There's only the one stain, but I see the memories of many. The throes of dying laughter bounce off the master bedroom. As they settle down, I ask again. "Why?" "You went into the house and you just started screaming. Like a madman. Like you were on fire. I thought you were in trouble, found you in here. And you..." The blood clogs his words. A gurgle that would have made me feel sorry in a past life. I look at the knife in the sink, the one that was missing from the block. I can only look down at it as he continues. "You. The coughing is getting wetter, his breath a wheeze. I look at him as he trails off, his eyes settling up above, at the ugly stucco ceiling. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry," I tell him, but the words hang empty in the little bathroom. Another weak laugh. "Yeah, right." The assistant coughs before sinking against the toilet, resting his head on the lid. No more breaths. I watch as the familiar face, one I've seen dozens of times but never got to know, eases into the still, quiet embrace of death. His eyes unfocus and fade away. I give him a minute before seizing his wrists and pulling him away. The house is pleased as I drag him. The squeak of blood-soaked rubber on wood. The drag of wet canvas over dust. The floorboards groan in delight as I leave the room, and I'm reminded of the homeless man rotting under the bed. Out in the hall, past the guest bedroom with the jogger in the closet, the one late-night routine that found him in my back seat. Lifeless boots thud against the stairs and drag through the kitchen, past the flies that buzz around the pantry, and the unfortunate prostitute who found herself crumpled within. I relive each predatory encounter, each late-night call not even sanctioned by my shadow employer. The blackened bloodstains on the floor of the dining room, remnants of the seduced truck driver in a meat cleaver, the hitchhiker flattened under the cushions of the couch in the living room, the young and half-dressed Tinder date slumped with a broken neck in the coat closet. It's not just a house. The dark doorway of the basement calls to me, and the assistant gets heavier as I maneuver him down the old wooden steps. I navigate through the black for a time, not needing the light to know where I'm going. My feet have memorized the stairs, and the creak is all too familiar. A product of all the visits I've made over the years. I drag the body in a wide angle and let him go. His final resting place is just as disrespectful and unfortunate as the others. I don't turn on the light until I've caught my breath and stretched the ache from my back, dreading the sight that comes next. My hand drifts above, and through the heavy glove I feel the pull chain of the light. When I tug it, I feel myself shrink under the weight of their dead eyes. The bodies are decrepit and frail, long rotted and withered away from the years of this damp, dark crypt. The family of four sits at an oddly set table in the basement, the first victims of this ungodly, malicious house. No one knows why the table was set here instead of the dining room, and no one knows why they bothered to serve a dinner they never intended to eat. This was only the first of many mysteries that lurked within this house, one that could never be properly investigated, sold, or demolished. A deceased family of four, an unknown cause of death, and a slumbering nuclear signal strong enough to level the whole Midwest if it wanted to. And at the end of it was a file that as long as I lived would remain blank. Behind me, the wall pulses. I don't want to look, but I always do. When I finally persuade my eyes to lift to the roots, I can see they're pleased with the offering. The moldy veins protruding from the cinder block flex and writhe in their stationary confinement. Veins that pump the suffering and pain I've inflicted over the years to the center of the musty, gestating mass. A beating heart, purple and black and delighted. I've done what's required. I'm leaving now, I say to it, beads of sweat stinging my eyes from within the respirator. The Geiger counter ticks faster, and the living core growls in disappointment. What do you want from me, huh? What the fuck else am I supposed to do? My words are unhinged, desperate, and the growth flinches against the spittle that flies from my mouth. The groaning intensifies, getting deeper. Behind me, I hear the crack of rigor breaking as the husk of the father comes to life. The corpse leans back in his chair, looking upon me with hollow sockets. More cracks follow, and the family stares at me as well. It lets me sweat as I wait. And after a time, the father's jaw starts to move.
You were the first to investigate this deal. First offering.
I hear the ghastly voice, but I don't know if it's actually real or just a fabrication of my own insanity. Regardless, I can't help but look to my right, to the crude door in the shadows of the basement. We're deep within the crawlspace Kelsey lies, wrapped in layers of stained bedsheets and dirty blankets. And what had been the unknowing feast of a strong, beating heart, hidden within her belly. I vomit in my mouth and nearly spray the inside of the respirator. I swallow it, and as I pant in misery, the animated corpse speaks again.
More Always more.
Get involved. Without a word, I leave the assistant and the family of 4, clicking the light before I go. Climbing the stairs in darkness, I look into the void of Kelsey's direction, the old guilt still stabbing me, as I huff carbon monoxide and hot puke. I close the basement behind me and head to the front door, feeling the foundation settle and floorboards rest as I reach for the knob. Outside, another van has pulled up, behind the one that was waiting for me when I arrived. I leave the house and walk to the street, pulling down the hood and tearing off the gas mask in a desperate need for fresh air. Even as the night chills my skin, the air feels stale. A cadet I've never seen rushes to my side, obviously younger and green, even through the guise of hazmat protectant. When he speaks, his words are nervous and fast. "Control called me in. Said they couldn't get a read on your handler's vitals. Is he?" His masked face is shaking and he clutches a clipboard to his chest. "You're my handler now, kid. Help me out of this, will you?" I ask, already trying to shrug off the canvas. The bloodstains are apparent even under the cover of nightfall, and he stares at them for a moment before snapping out of it. Yes, of course." He drips the clipboard and helps me out of the gear, my body stinking of sweat and dust and fear. We say nothing as I dress behind the van, and he stuffs the soiled garments into bright orange bags, each labeled in large biohazard symbols. Looking at the house from the street, I hear the sounds of coughs, and the stench of death starts to fade, but not fast enough. And I find my solace in a menthol from the soft pack in the car. After 3 drags, I start climbing into the driver's seat, and the new handler trails close behind me. I start the engine, hoping he takes the hint, but he doesn't. Smoke wafts out into the night as I roll the window down. Sir?" he asks, holding his clipboard close. The respirator echoes a wheeze. "What?" "What do we do now?" His tone is frightened. Innocent. I don't have the time for it. "Nothing," I say, taking another drag. His next question makes me pause, and I take a long look at the house. "What happened to your handler?" "Nothing." I put the car in gear and pull away, leaving 36 Sherman Lane behind me, wishing it was for good. Nancy is asleep when I get home. I find a plate in the microwave, a home-cooked meal left cold in my absence. I pull a frosted bottle from the freezer and fill a glass, my eyes transfixed on the green digits telling me the time on the microwave's interface. 9:54. I rub my eyes and down 2 inches in one gulp before looking up again. 1:37. I eat the food in silence, neither tasting it or feeling a burn in my mouth as I lean against the sink. My shoulders are heavy. My mind aches. I have another 2 inches. Toss the paper plate in the trash and then have another 2. I don't feel the water in the shower afterwards, and I don't grimace against the last of the bottle as I tilt it to the ceiling. I find Nancy in bed, snoring softly on her side. I crawl into bed quietly and plant a kiss on her cheek. She stirs and places a hand on my chest while I look at the ceiling, my aching mind numbing as I gaze into the stucco finish on the ceiling. I forget about the house, and all the trips I've made over the years, knowing deep down there will never be an end. And I forget about the momentary quench of the undying thirst that dwells underneath the floorboards. Just like I forgot about Kelsey. Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/Jordan Grupe Horror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow. And see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.